The Golden State Valkyries are one of the best examples of an expansion team in the WNBA.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. Joined alongside me is my co-host, Sophia Jones, and we have another special guest today, Kevin Dana, joining us from the Golden State Valkyries. He is the play-by-play for them, as well as play-by-play for Stanford Women's Basketball. Kevin, thank you so much for being here.
Kalia, Sophia, thank you both so much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure.
The Valkyries have been so fun to watch this season. We're going to get a little bit about just your perspective, both you and Sophia, what it was like being part of an expansion team and seeing so much success for them, as well as just what some of these offseason outlooks are like. And then we're going to get into some news about Dominique Malonga and her contract. But starting us off with free agency with the Golden State Valkyries. Kevin, what do you think will be the top priorities for Golden State?
Well, I think the top priorities for the fans of the Golden State Valkyries will be to get Sabrina Ionescu or someone of that ilk, the quote unquote big time star. I don't know if that's how Ohema and company are going to be thinking about it. I think we heard at the end of the regular season, you could kind of hear fans saying, we love this team. They just had that 17 to 20 point per game score. And, before the injury, Kayla Thornton wasn't that far off from that. She was around 14 and a half, I want to say, through the first 22 games. Obviously, there's a big appeal. You think about the money that's behind this franchise, the money that the franchise has brought in, that you can go quote unquote big game hunting for a big time superstar. Maybe that's the route they'll go. I know that's probably what the fans want to see. Someone like a Sabrina Ionescu. It's tough to tell when we don't know what the new CBA looks like yet. When the season starts, what the expansion rules are going to look like yet for Toronto and Portland. But I could tell you that's what the fans want, most likely.
And they would be very reasonable. I mean, she's a Walnut Creek native. Walnut Creek is considered Bay Area, I think.
Yes, it is.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
But you mentioned a player like Kayla Thornton. Her and Veronica Burton both signed limited offseason play bonuses, essentially, just to limit the amount of time that they're spend playing overseas. For KT, most likely so she can rehab, and then Veronica, she's going unrivaled. Do you see that as kind of as significant in the way that those are probably the two main players that they're prioritizing?
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly prioritize those two players if I were the Valkyries brass. They were fantastic this year. Kayla Thornton obviously only played half the season, but she was very available before that knee injury. She played and started every game up until that point, until unfortunately had that knee injury in practice right before the Dallas Wings games, right after the All-Star break. But she was available. She was there first half, and she and Veronica, I believe, were the only two to play in the first 22 games, and Veronica played in all 44. And then Veronica, I mean, most improved player. What else is there to say, right? She got cut from the Dallas Wings to start the 2024 season, and then she's hitting the shot to send the Valkyries to the playoffs against the Dallas Wings on that September 4th game. So, yeah, again, we don't know what the expansion rules will look like, but you would think that, hey, if they're going to sign those limited overseas bonuses that or limited play elsewhere bonuses, that those are going to be a couple players that the Valkyries would protect. I would certainly, if I was running things, which I am certainly not, I would like to protect them in expansion drafts as well.
So when we're thinking of the unrestricted free agents this season, it's Tiffany Hayes, Kayla Thornton, who we've obviously mentioned, Monique Billings, as well as Temi. So when we're thinking of those players and just the significance of them in this year's season, as well as just, the roster makeup, I guess which one of those players maybe not staying if they do decide to leave would hurt Golden State most?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, well, Kayla for sure, just because she's first All-Star in franchise history. But I'm thinking like that post rotation too. I mean, Tiffany Hayes was great as well. All those players were huge role players, but like Temi and Monique were kind of the backbone of that team. Monique had a couple of injury issues that Temi unfortunately couldn't, was a late scratch to game 2 of the Minnesota series, but they formed a lot of the heart and soul of that team. Obviously, a lot of different players contributed to that culture, but I'm thinking of Temi saying we're a team of 6 women, and it's kind of something that the media certainly picked up on, and I felt like fans rallied around. And when Temi said, "Hey, the fans are too nice to the other team," essentially, you don't have to cheer Paige Beckers and John Quell Jones and all these superstars that come in. You can make it a little uncomfortable for them. Like the very next game, the fans booed the other team. Like she had a voice that carried. Monique Billings, some of the defense she played, and also I think she had one of the first biggest kind of crowd pop moments of the year against the Indiana Fever, helping to lead the 13-point comeback. She hit this and one shot. She just kind of threw her arms up in the air, made a big smile, and just, I mean, the crowd was loud every game. But that first Caitlin Clark game, that place was insane, and she had one of the kind of most memorable moments. So, I mean, I know they're probably not going to be able to keep everyone. That's the reality of the WNBA. Hopefully, everyone's in line for major pay upgrades this year, so it's probably not going to work, or you can bring the whole team back, but I'm going to miss whoever is not coming back.
For sure. And I feel like, to your point about Temi saying you guys can be telling the crowd to be a little bit more negative, in that game, the game 3 or game 2 at SAP Center in San Jose, which was the first playoff game, that was probably the loudest boos I think that
Yes.
we heard the
Agreed.
entire Valkyries home season. So they understood the assignment that time. But when you're thinking about that front court and the size between a Temi, Mo, and then Ileana Rupert, but also dabbling into a little bit of this free agency pool. We know that to play for Coach Nakase, you got to play defense and you got to be willing to shoot threes or just open shots in general. She has that let it fly mentality. Is there anyone that you could see the Valkyries targeting in free agency?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, when you say a post player who can shoot threes and play defense, I mean, one of the first names that comes to my mind, especially with the perimeter shot, is NECA. I mean, obviously, as someone who covers Stanford women's basketball, that's gonna be the first name that comes to my mind. Yeah, that's a great question. That I mean, there's a lot of great shooting bigs that would fit that mold. NECA comes to mind. I mean, John Quell comes to mind. I mean, we're this is like a make a wish list at this point. If we're just going to be saying names like that, but I mean, I loved what Azurá Stevens did this year with the Los Angeles Sparks. I've been a fan of her since her Kalia Butler Chicago Sky days a few years back. So.
Yeah. Well, I was not on the Chicago Sky.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I know you're covering the Chicago Sky.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit more about just the experience that both of you guys had when it comes to being part of an expansion team. Obviously, we have a couple coming up with Portland and Toronto, obviously some more down the road, but ones that we are going to be able to see early. So we'll talk to you guys just a little bit about what it was like and what you can maybe give advice to some other franchises on what works when it comes to an expansion team. Playing Prize Picks is such fun. Simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on a player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. what I love most is how quick it is. You can make your lineup in just under a minute. There's a special max discount promotion live on the board right now for the Golden State Warriors versus Los Angeles Lakers game on the 21st, which just happened. Steph Curry is discounted to only needing more than half a point to win. Mix and match players from football, basketball, and baseball to build your dream lineup. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That code is LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Okay, obviously you guys have some experience being with a franchise team now. And I will have to say, this is really one of the best examples of an expansion team. When you're thinking of having the coach of the year, you have the most improved player of the year, and just the general makeup of the roster, it just all made so much sense. But I want to say Natalie Nakase, I love her. I also did not know that she was that tiny until I met her. And I was like, she is amazing. Like, she's just so fiery, but she's also so personable. And I see why all the players really rallied behind her and wanted to play for her, play for the franchise. But I think what I really want to know about is, what was it like being in that arena? Because even watching it on TV, it was so loud, and it seemed like every single game it was absolutely packed. So what was it like being part of such a historic franchise to start with?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember the May 6th preseason game, how loud it was when they took the court for the first time. I'm like, hey, Sophia, like, can you send me the video you're taking right now? I want to remember this. It was, look, I knew that the fan support was going to be great. When the Golden State organization puts their mind to something, they're going to do it top notch. I did not realize it would be 22 for 22 sellouts, and I did not realize the fans would be as dedicated as they were. I didn't realize the fans would be buying $200K worth of merchandise every home game. And it's like, it's a much different, as far as like team gear being worn to a game, percentage of fans wearing the team's gear to a game is like the highest ratio I've seen in any league, I think, across the board. So, I mean, just being in there was incredible. You kind of pinch yourself every night that you get to, broadcast a game in that kind of environment. The San Jose game, obviously, fans preferred that game to be at Chase Center in the playoffs. I preferred it in San Jose because I live 10 minutes from the arena. But like, it was amazing. It was, I was having trouble hearing Sophia during the broadcast. It was that loud.
No, I was going to bring up that exact point. There were times I really did struggle to hear you, and I'm taking a little bit or one headphone off and lean over to try to listen and get all the words that you're saying. But they were extremely loud, so passionate. And I think what was also so great about the environment that I really think also stemmed from the organization is the open-mindedness of everyone, and the way that everyone was just so prepared to dive straight in to support, just with no regrets or qualms. And I mean, I talk about that in the organization because that's what all the players and the coaches, front office, you could definitely tell that they embraced. And it really just diffused throughout the entirety of the Valkyries fan base, the way that everyone would show up. They're so positive, making their own t-shirts and gear. Again, I think every time I would take a lap through the concourse, I would see something that's like, oh, I got to check to see if that's on the team store. Yeah. And if it was, I'd be like, I might need to go to the team store after the game. But if not, it was because it was custom made, and there was just so much support, and everyone just really loved every single one of the players, coaches. There was just so much love from front office, again, to the fan base. And I think that's what really helped the Valkyries to shine.
And there were like 3 or 4 games this year after a loss where they got a standing ovation from the fans. And the first time it happened, I remember, I think it was Leticia Me here was sharing it with us. She hit a 3 to beat the buzzer in our first exhibition game to make it 83-82 Los Angeles. Valkyries lost by 1. people started standing up and cheering. And I remember Leticia sharing with the media, like she was like, Sparks players were looking around like, did we just lose? Like, it was that loud of a cheer after a loss. And that happened a few more times this season.
That really warms my heart because I just love seeing this growth of obviously women's basketball in general, but now, being able to see these expansion teams and people really rallying behind it, proving why that different cities deserve these expansion teams. So obviously you guys have year one under your belt being with the Valkyries. What tips and guidance would you give these upcoming expansion teams when it comes to the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo when they have their debut seasons coming up?
Yeah, number one would be don't follow. And I think the Valkyries even said, like, you got to follow your own script. You can't follow, like, there is no one right way to do this. So certainly the Valkyries knocked it out of the park in year one, but what's going to work for Portland and Toronto might not work for Golden State. Listen to your fan base, get an idea of what your fan base is. And I have an idea that, look, I don't know people in the Toronto organization, but Kimberly Veals with the Portland Fire, and she did a great job with the Valkyries. I imagine she's going to take a lot of that success to Portland. Obviously, Vanya's there as well as the GM, and so and I know that they're at like 13 to 15,000 season ticket deposits as well. So they've done a really good job. I forget the exact number there, but they've been knocking it out the park. So I'm not worried about with the success of the Portland Thorns in the NWSL and the Portland Timbers and Portland Trailblazers of the MLS and NBA. I have no doubts that the Portland Fire are going to have a great fan base for their games at Moda Center this year. Those would be a couple things that come to my mind.
Yeah, and I would say even for the team like the Toronto Tempo, when there was that exhibition or the neutral site game for the WNBA, I think it was 2 years ago in Toronto, sold out, a ton of fan support. Yep. Last season, the game with the Storm and Dream, I believe that was in Vancouver. Yep. They're opposite sides, but still Canada, I guess. There was a lot of support there. So I think Toronto's really ready. And as someone that has family there and family that works in Toronto media, there's been a really large shift from kind of dominant hockey and baseball fan bases to now basketball. And just with that, with the makeup and diversity of a city like Toronto as well, I think they'll definitely embrace a WNBA team like we've seen some of these other expansion teams and like you mentioned, the Portland Fire. But in terms of maybe like my takeaway from what the Valkyries did that other teams should maybe look at, I would just say to definitely be process over results. And that was something that they kept saying at the beginning of the season over and over again. Coach Nakase, players, they were like, yeah, we're just focusing on the process. We know that expectations may not be super high. And so that made every single day in practice, they just wanted to work a little bit harder. So all of that stuff, again, process over results, because in their minds, if they're like, oh, the Valkyries just did it, we can do it, we need to win games, then you can miss the in-between steps. So I think that would be the biggest thing that I think really helped the Valkyries that can honestly apply to a lot of other teams.
Trust the process. I'm going to just start saying that. I'm going to have that quote in my room by Sophia Jones, though. She said it first.
Okay. Yes.
Coming up next, we have some news with Dominique Malonga and her contract dispute right after this.
Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. You've heard them before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. When it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Brugia comes in. Brugia.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED, designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Brugia makes it to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNBA to get $15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNBA so that they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves.
Alrighty, so some news when it comes to Dominique Malonga, the 19-year-old with the Seattle Storm. She's a player of the Fenerbahce. Am I saying this correctly, guys?
Fenerbahce?
Fenerbahce. Guys, I'm not French. I took French in 6th grade and then I quit. Fenerbahce, a pet women's basketball team. She unilaterally terminated her professional player contract with the club without any just cause, is what Fener posted to X on Monday. It said, we informed the public that we will exercise all our legal rights to seek compensation for any material and moral damages incurred by our club during this process, which I thought was a little bit of a heavy tweet, but also I understand, I guess. But this doesn't seem like a Dominique Malonga problem, as a 19-year-old who I'm sure to this point has probably not dealt with her contracts. This is maybe a miscommunication with an agent as well as, the team, but also curious as to why she did decide to depart and what her WNBA season is going to look like now. Kevin, do you want to start us off? What are your thoughts and takeaways from this?
Yeah, I mean, moral obligations. That was a little strong. Like when you read that, I was like, "Whoa, okay."
I guess I know she could dunk, but it really
moral. Like, wow, was she? Did she rob the Louvre? I mean, like, what's going on here? But yeah, I mean, like, so I'm reading this front office sports report, and I think like Dom posted a TikTok that she needed wrist surgery, and this was done about a week ago, 6 days ago, something like that. And so, like, if she feels like she needs wrist surgery and, wants to play in the WNBA season, like, when else are you going to get the wrist surgery? Right. So, and like, I could see, like, why she feel like, even though she's a European, came up through France, that, like, the WNBA would be where she wants her primary future to be, with, expected big jumps in pay coming. And so this is the time to get that wrist surgery. And yeah, like you said, Kalia, there had to be a miscommunication with an agent at 19 years old. Yeah, this would be like, I don't know if she got bad advice or like what's going on there, but yeah, hopefully this gets settled, because I definitely want to see Dominique Malonga play in 2026 in the WNBA. And I'm not sure if it's the exact same thing, but I remember Jessica Shepard couldn't play in the WNBA in 2024 because of an overseas contract dispute. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's the exact same thing, but we've seen this happen before, unfortunately, in the W.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about wanting to see Dom Malonga play, I think I was, for such a long time, I was like, I want to see a Dom dunk. Like, I want to see one. And then we got to the last game of the regular season, which was against the Valkyries. And I was like, you know what? We can hold off on that dunk until the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not too much. So I had to backtrack a little bit. But you talk about the contractual disputes with overseas club and FIBA and the WNBA. And so the W and FIBA have an agreement that requires players to be cleared in both directions when playing overseas and in the WNBA. So WNBA team has to clear players to go play overseas, and then that club has to then clear them to go back. And so where Dom's second season in the W is coming into a little bit of a question is if Fenerbahce does decide to take a lot of heavy legal action, and then they could potentially not want to release her and not write that written notice so that she can return. And I think for her, especially where we saw tremendous growth throughout the course of the season, especially post All-Star break. I mean, I think it took her one game essentially in the WNBA playoffs I don't want to say figure out, because I don't think anyone figures out Asia Wilson, but to, compete toe-to-toe against one of the GOATs of women's basketball as a 19-year-old is something pretty special. And I think that with the Storm team that just fired or decided not to continue with Noelle Quinn, and they have so many free agents, they could potentially be looking at a rebuild. I don't think there are too many other players that you want to rebuild other than a 19-year-old Dom Malonga.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Noel did a really good job bringing along Dom this year and kind of, I mean, not quote unquote hiding her per se, but when she was ready to take a bigger step, that's when she got into the games. I remember thinking, first few games of the season, like, all right, this is a project. Dom Malonga is a project, a multi-year project. And then in August, like, she had like back-to-back 2010 games off the bench. I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? And all of a sudden, she just became a major player.
Mm-hmm.
And like to the point where I probably should have reconsidered her as like a serious like all rookie selection. It was really impressive to see her in season growth. I mean, by the time she's 23, 24, when she still has 4 years to go until she reaches her prime, I think we're looking at a future MVP of this league. I do, and like in the 2030s somewhere, maybe. Yeah, I'll say in the 2030s decade. That's not going out on a limb, but one of those 10 years she's gonna be WNBA MVP.
I totally agree with you. And I think that's why Fenner is crying in the club right now, because they were pissed. They were not happy to see this. But I think the reality of the situation is she was more than likely going to leave this team eventually, maybe earlier than they anticipated. But I believe a lot of overseas players have also made it clear that, the money and everything involved and the level of play is in the US. They have a lot of fantastic players that are coming out of Europe, and nobody can deny that. I mean, she's basically a baby Victor Wembanyama. Like, they're the same person, different fonts. And even Victor has a little sister who's also French and like 6'4" and can hoop. So you can't deny the talent that is coming out of Europe. However, I've heard multiple overseas players say that even players that played in the U.S., went overseas and came back, have said the just competition level and physicality of the league is completely different. I think of Alexi Held, who I have a close relationship with, working with her at DePaul. I had interviewed her, and she had gone overseas, and coming back and being able to play in the WNBA. You get a lot of those developmental skills going overseas. However, coming back to the league, they're adjusting well, but it still is a process of this is a completely different style of play and competition, and the largest part is physicality. And I think we saw Dom struggle with that at the beginning, where she's just not very strong. I think she's going to continue getting stronger, obviously, but realistically, I am, I didn't study exercise science, but I'm pretty sure you need your wrist to lift. So she needs that time to get her surgery now. So that when the 2026 season does come for the WNBA and she has these opportunities to develop and keep growing, that time can actually come for her instead of having these disputes with European teams. However, that also comes down to make sure she has the right team around her that is handling these well, because if she doesn't play in 2026, I'm not saying that's going to be detrimental to her career, but it's definitely going to be hurtful.
Yeah, and to your point, I think Gabby Williams went on, she did like a major podcast circuit kind of recently, but on one of them, she was saying how with a lot of the young European and more specifically French, because she played on that French national team, she talked about how she loves the development that they're able to get playing for these major professional clubs in Europe. But she also sees it as necessary to come over to the States so that there isn't a ceiling placed on their talent. I think she mentioned Dom Malonga, Carla Late on the Valkyries, and then Layla Lacan on the Connecticut Sun. But yeah, to your point, I think Dom needs to be in the W. I think her talent, and especially with the CBA getting more money, that's a player that you want to pay right there.
Yeah, and you mentioned Layla Lacan, Sophia. I was super impressed with her. She came over second half of the season for Connecticut, really gave them a spark. I mean, Connecticut they kind of finished the season okay after just being horrendous to start the season. And Layla had a lot to do with that. She is going to be a really good player in the WNBA as well. A lot of talent coming out of France.
Yeah.
So
and
much.
last thing to your point from earlier, because you were like, oh, that's a hot take or whatever. Throughout the whole season, you would be like, oh, I have a super hot take. And then it would be something like, I think if the Valkyries can win these first 3 quarters, they have a good shot of winning the game. And it's like, that's not really a hot take, but okay. So, and I think that applies the same with the Dom MVP talk, because in the 2030s, I think she is so close to getting to that status.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you another hot take. Asia Wilson's going to score a lot of points, get a lot of rebounds next year. So there we go. Another one out the door.
Listen, Kevin is just doing his own PR work, so nobody comes for him too much. But his points are all valid, and I can also assume that Asia will probably score a lot of points next season. But thank you, Kevin, so much for being here. We really appreciate your insight. Sophia, thank you for talking about the Valkyries with us today as well. And thank you all for tuning in. It is a pleasure to talk women's basketball with you all. Make sure to follow us on our socials, and we will see you guys again tomorrow.